My name is Monica Davis, and I'm 61 years old. For most of my life, I believed that motherhood meant sacrifice, giving everything, expecting nothing. But last night, that belief shattered forever. It started like any other evening. I was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup, his favorite, or so I thought. The house was silent except for the bubbling sound and the faint hum of the fridge. Then, I heard his footsteps, slow, heavy, deliberate. My son, Daniel. He walked in, glanced at the pot, and asked in that cold, flat tone, "You forgot the salt again, didn't you?" Before I could answer, the ladle slipped from my hand. I tried to smile, tried to explain, I was going to add it. But the words never left my mouth. The next thing I remember was the sharp sting of pain as the bowl smashed against my face. I stumbled, clutching the edge of the counter, but he didn't stop. My own son, the boy I once rocked to sleep, had become a stranger capable of rage I could never imagine. His eyes were hollow, his voice venomous. "You ruin everything, Mom. Everything." When it was over, he stormed off to his room, slamming the door like nothing had happened. I lay there on the kitchen floor, the soup spreading around me like a red tide, not from the pot, but from the blood dripping off my lip. I remember looking at the towel in my hand. I used it to clean the floor, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't want him to see the mess. Even after what he did, I was still cleaning up for him. That's what mothers do, right? Or at least, that's what I thought. As the night dragged on, I sat in silence, listening to his music playing behind the door. To him, striking his own mother was as ordinary as breathing. To me, it was the death of something sacred, the bond between a mother and her child. But I told myself, it's just anger. It's just stress. I lied to protect him, and to protect myself from the truth. The truth that my son was becoming a monster. And deep inside, I knew. This wasn't the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. What happened the next morning would change everything, and reveal a secret I'd been hiding for years. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the kitchen window like nothing had happened. The same walls, the same table, yet everything felt different. I could still taste iron on my lips, and the bruise under my eye pulsed with every heartbeat. I boiled water for tea, my hands trembling as the kettle whistled. I didn't want him to wake up angry again. I didn't want to give him another reason. When Daniel finally came downstairs, he didn't even look at me. He walked past, grabbed his phone, and said, "You're making breakfast or not?" No apology. No guilt. Just entitlement, as if I owed him my silence. I placed the plate in front of him. Eggs, toast, and tea. He didn't thank me. He never did. As he ate, I glanced at the photo hanging on the wall, Daniel as a little boy, smiling with a missing front tooth, holding my hand at the park. I blinked back tears. Where had that child gone? When did my little boy become the man who hit me? He noticed me staring. "What are you looking at?" he snapped. I quickly turned away. "Nothing, honey, nothing." He scoffed and left for work, slamming the door behind him. Only then did I let the tears fall. The moment the house went quiet, I broke down completely. I pressed my hand against my face, whispering, I deserve better than this. But then, another voice in my head whispered, you raised him. You made him who he is. And that guilt, that unbearable, crushing guilt, was heavier than any bruise. Around noon, my neighbor Mrs. Peterson knocked on the door. She noticed the swelling under my eye and asked, oh dear, what happened to you? I forced a smile. Just slipped in the kitchen. She nodded, but her eyes told me she didn't believe it. She wanted to say more, but she didn't. Maybe she was afraid too, afraid of getting involved. After she left, I sat on the couch and stared at the clock. Every tick felt like a countdown to his return. I knew he'd come back tired, angry, maybe drunk. I should have been scared, but I wasn't. I was numb. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just about last night. This was years of control, manipulation, and fear, building quietly, behind closed doors. And for the first time in my life, I began to wonder if love was supposed to hurt like this. But that evening, when I went to his room to check on something, I found something that made my blood run cold. What I saw in his drawer that night finally told me the truth about who my son really was. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house made me flinch. Every car passing by made my heart race. I knew Daniel would come home any minute, and when he did, the tension in the air would return like a storm cloud. But before he arrived, something inside me snapped. I don't know what pushed me, fear, curiosity, or desperation, but I found myself standing outside his room. His door was slightly open. For years, I'd respected his space. I told myself he was an adult, that he deserved privacy. But now, after what he'd done, I needed answers. I stepped in quietly. His room smelled like cigarettes and sweat, the kind of smell that clings to anger. On his desk sat unpaid bills, empty beer cans, and a photo of us from years ago, me smiling, him pretending to. That's when I noticed it, the half-open drawer. Something inside urged me not to look, but my shaking hands reached for it anyway. I pulled it open, and what I saw made the air leave my lungs. Inside were old prescription bottles, my name still on the labels. They were painkillers, ones I thought I had lost months ago. Every few days, I'd found myself dizzy, drowsy, forgetful. I blamed my age. But now I knew, it wasn't age. It was him. He'd been drugging me. My own son. For a moment, the world spun. I sat on the edge of his bed, clutching those bottles like they were proof of my own foolishness. My mind screamed, why? Was it for money? Control? Or just cruelty? The sound of the front door opening jolted me. I shoved the bottles back and hurried out, closing the door softly behind me. My breath came in shallow gasps. I had to act normal. I had to survive the night. He walked past me, reeking of alcohol, eyes glassy. You still up? He muttered. I nodded quickly, forcing a smile. Just locking up. He grunted and went straight to his room. I stood there, watching the same door I had just come out of, my heart breaking in silence. That night, I realized the truth. My son didn't just hurt me out of anger. He wanted control over my money, my mind, my life. And for the first time, I decided maybe it was time to take that control back. But the moment I decided to fight back, Daniel found out. And what happened next nearly cost me my life. The next morning felt different. I woke up before sunrise, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd found. The pill bottles, my fading memory, the bruises I kept hiding under long sleeves, it all made sense now. I wasn't just living with a violent son, I was living with someone who wanted to break me piece by piece until nothing was left. When Daniel came downstairs, I had already packed a small bag. He looked at me with suspicion. "Where are you going?" "Just to the clinic," I lied. He stared at me for a moment, then shrugged and said, "Don't be long. I need the car later." As soon as he left for work, I grabbed the bag, the pill bottles, and my phone. My hands were shaking, but I didn't stop. I walked straight to the bus stop, heart pounding with every step. It felt like escaping a prison I'd lived in for years. At the clinic, I showed the doctor the pills. His face turned pale. "Monica, these doses could have caused serious damage. Who gave them to you?" I hesitated, but for the first time, I told the truth. "My son." They called the police immediately. My voice trembled as I gave my statement, but once I started talking, I couldn't stop. Every bruise, every insult, every night of fear, it all poured out like floodwater after a storm. Later that evening, when Daniel came home, 2 officers were waiting for him. He looked at me, his eyes full of disbelief, rage, betrayal. "How could you do this to me?" he shouted as they cuffed him. And I whispered, "You did this to yourself." When the door closed behind him, I sank to the floor. For the first time in years, the house was silent. Peaceful. Safe. Days passed. The bruises healed slowly, but the pain inside, that would take longer. Sometimes I still catch myself listening for his footsteps, expecting his voice. But then I remember. I survived him. I've started therapy now. I cook small meals for myself, plant flowers in the garden, and write in my journal every morning. It's strange, I'm learning how to live again at 61. People ask me why I didn't leave earlier. The truth is, love makes you blind, especially a mother's love. But now, I know love isn't meant to hurt, to control, or to silence. I lost a son the day I found my courage, but I found myself. And that's a kind of rebirth I never thought I'd live to see. If you've ever been trapped in silence like Monica, remember, speaking up isn't weakness, it's survival. Tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from, and what part of Monica's story hit you the hardest? If this story touched your heart, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Every week, we share real stories that deserve to be heard, stories of pain, strength, and hope. Your one click helps these voices reach the world. Subscribe, and be part of a family that listens, feels, and heals together.